What is up, guys? It's your boy, and yeah, it's a Saturday in the afternoon, so I wanted to talk about the realities of what it's actually like trying to make a lot of money at a young age, right? So I'm just going to be speaking from my personal experiences, and I'm going to be as honest and as blunt as I can possibly be, right? So, yeah, let me just get started. So, the first thing, the first reality about chasing, of trying to become successful is number one, your parents low key won't understand you, and they might even think that, oh, I think my son is going through something, or whatever gender you are. Because with me, for example, both of my parents, by the way, I'm still a uni student, right? So both of my parents feel that I shouldn't be so locked in and so focused on trying to do business. You get what I'm saying? And they feel like school is the main way, school is the main path that I should be focused on. So, my mom even called me like a couple of days ago because I have like a supplementary exam because I didn't do well on one exam, so I have to go back and write it again. So she was like, playing, hold on. Okay, so what I was saying is my mom a couple of days ago was like, kind of lied, this whole business thing isn't going to get you anywhere and stuff, so to some degree she might be right, to some degree she might not be right about that point, but that brings me on to the second thing, is that there's a lot of uncertainty, right? The thing about working so hard in business is that you are going to be basically doing something that you've never done before. You're doing something that a lot of people don't have experience doing. Like I sell cars, I do trading, I'm trying to do content now, and no one in my family does those things. I'm the first one. So it's uncertain because you don't have an example around you to show you that, oh yeah, like this works, Your relatives are, my relatives are all in different fields. They're all doing different things, but no one is doing any of those three things that I just mentioned. I'm the first one in both sides of my family to even venture into these things. So it's very uncertain. I don't have an example. So you can imagine your parents telling you that this might not work, and the uncertainty also. Like, you quite literally have to be crazy to be able to keep on doing something, with little to no feedback. And that brings me on to point number 3, is that it gets lonely, right? A lot of motivational speakers and stuff will be talking about how, yeah, it's the grind is a lonely journey. The grind is this and stuff, and like, I'd always be like, man, what are you talking about, bro? Like, you can just hustle and just keep your friends, bro. Like, come on. And that is true. You can hustle and keep your friends. But the problem now is that it's quite difficult to balance hustling and keeping friends, because when you become someone who's focused on business, when you become someone who's logged in, when you become someone who is very cautious of how they invest their time, how they invest their money, it becomes harder to connect with people who aren't necessarily doing the same thing, Like, I still have all my friends who I've had before I started being serious with my life and stuff. But I will definitely say that I'm not as close to them as I once was. Like, maybe we'll talk twice a month or once a month, or sometimes even longer stretches than that. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what comes with it, bro. Because maybe how you and this friend used to connect would be, or we always go out to the club, or we always go out to party and stuff, or we do this and that. And then when you become someone who's trying to invest in the right places, maybe you begin to figure out that, I think the money that I used to spend going out to these clubs and shit, it's probably better I invest some of this money into my business, knowing that it can actually grow over a certain period of time, right? But like I mentioned in point number 2, it's uncertain, right? You don't actually know if this investment is going to pay off, you know what I'm saying? So it's lonely in the sense that you can still have friends, but you don't see each other as often, you don't connect the same way that you used to connect, at a certain point in your life. And hell, if all of your friends are completely like on a different lane than you, you're basically alone at that point. I'm glad I have a few people that are doing the same thing as me, so I wouldn't say like I'm lonely, you know what I'm saying? But I'm definitely more isolated. I'm not lonely, but I'm definitely more isolated than I've ever been, like, at any point in my life currently, and that's just something that comes with it. I'm glad that I'm logical enough to understand why it's like that, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, in my experience, like, yeah, it definitely is so many planes today, bro. So yeah, point number 4, it is stressful, right? So that's point number 4, because now when you decide that, okay, I want to start taking these things seriously, your life begins to revolve around these things that you're doing, these businesses and these business ideas. So, because now you've become so focused on this thing, you want it to work out, you know? And yeah, of course, you want it to work out because you're now focused on it. If I am like in a relationship with somebody, the moment I was like, can you be my girlfriend? I've been wanting that connection to work from the start. So, of course, if it's not going to align with how I want it to be, I'm going to be stressed out. You feel me? So, it is stressful because it's entrepreneurship or just business in general requires a lot of patience and delayed gratification. You have to be able to say no. You have to be able to say, I won't do that today. You have to be able to say, let's consider doing this after I've invested this. Or, you know, yeah. And also things not working out, like with the cars, for example. Maybe I can have a car I'm trying to sell, and thankfully I have made some sales, so there's definitely proof that it works. But there are some times where you have a deal coming in, someone comes to see a car, and the owner might have not stated that there was a problem with the car, and then when the client test drives, they're like, yo bro, there's a problem with the oil, or there's a problem with the gearbox, and then it's like, oh fuck bro, you know that's money gone. And it can get stressful when things don't work out, when you're trying to have them work out so bad. You feel me? So you need to be, so in this thing, you just gotta be, you need it gives you a hard heart, you know. The moment you dive into this shit, you're not a softie anymore. Like, it literally programs you to understand that, yo, not everything's gonna go well. You feel me? So yeah, that's one of the things stressful. Number 5. What's another reality? One sec. Another reality is that your fear to rejection reduces quite substantially, and your response to failure toughens and strengthens, right? Because business is just full of failure, and it's full of failure. It's full of redirection, changing what you're doing. Like, you become mentally strong. You still struggle because you're a human, obviously, but if someone else was to be in your shoes, like, they would fucking commit suicide, bro. I'm not going to lie. So that's another thing. Another reality is that you start having a reason to wake up. You start having passion, you know. You're able to wake up and say, man, I'm so glad that I can wake up today and push my business, or I can wake up today and try again. I can wake up today and try chase that milli that I'm trying to get. I can wake up today and fucking buy my first car, you feel me? That's really what I'm on. Like right now, at this current moment, all of my goals are linked to me buying a car for myself, you see? So every day I just measure like how close am I to getting that car that I want to get. What have I done today that is getting me closer to that? You feel me? So I have a reason to wake up in the morning. I'm like, I gotta buy this car. Like, I'm not just going to chill and do nothing. I'm going to try and chase after this goal. That's a positive. The other positive I gain is the resilience to rejection and stuff, and having a tougher heart. So that's another reality. And yeah, you you end up becoming philosophical, if that's the right English word. Like you start diving more into how your mind works and how the brain works, and you start understanding things like dopamine and motivation